Chosen one. Are you tired of being God's forgotten warrior? Have you carried burdens so heavy that your knees buckle at 3 a.m., wondering if the Almighty has moved on to younger, stronger vessels? Do you stare at your reflection and whisper the words that haunt every faithful heart? Lord, have I become invisible to you? It's 2 a.m. in Queens. Your arthritis-worn hands wrap around a cup of coffee that went cold hours ago. The Medicare statements are scattered across your kitchen table like broken promises. Social Security barely covers the prescriptions. Your grown children are too busy for your calls. And you whisper that prayer, the one you've breathed into 1,000 sleepless nights. Lord, I've tried everything. I've been faithful for 70 years. Where are you? And then, in that sacred stillness, you feel it. A whisper that cuts through decades of doubt. Child, you've done enough. Now, let me take over. Chosen one, what if I told you that whisper wasn't your imagination? What if every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every moment you felt forgotten was actually God positioning you for the greatest takeover of your lifetime? Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Your season of striving just expired tonight, this very moment. The God who parted the Red Sea for Moses at 80, who gave Sarah a son at 90, who called Anna the prophetess at 84 to proclaim the Messiah, that same God has been watching your faithfulness. And he's about to prove that your best years aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. You've fought battles no one else could see, carried weights that would have crushed others, stood firm when everything screamed give up. But God is speaking directly to your weathered heart tonight. You've done enough, beloved. Now step aside and watch me work. Before we journey deeper into this divine intervention together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. If your spirit is trembling right now, if something ancient is stirring in your chest, type 777 in the comments. Let heaven see that you're ready to receive what's been held back until this appointed hour. This isn't just engagement. This is your declaration of faith, joining thousands of chosen ones across America. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie about your age, your relevance, and your divine assignment. God hasn't forgotten you, chosen one. He's been preparing you for this moment when he says, "Move over, I'm taking the wheel." Are you ready to discover why your struggle ends tonight? How many nights have you lain awake at 3 a.m., your mind racing through Medicare bills you can't afford, wondering if your Social Security will last another month? How long have you smiled through Sunday service while your heart aches from children who've grown too busy to call, grandchildren who barely know your name? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and didn't see a burden instead of a blessing? Dear chosen one, I need you to stop pretending everything is fine. Stop forcing that smile when your arthritis screams with every step. Stop saying I'm okay when your prescription costs more than your grocery budget. Stop carrying the weight of a family that takes your love for granted while treating you like yesterday's news. You wake up every morning, and the first thing that hits you isn't gratitude, it's dread. Another day of doctor appointments you can't afford. Another day of watching the news and feeling like the world has passed you by. Another day of being treated like you're invisible at the grocery store, at the bank, even at your own kitchen table when the family gathers without really seeing you. But here's what's breaking my heart tonight. You think this is just what getting old means. You've accepted that your voice doesn't matter anymore. You've resigned yourself to being society's afterthought. You carry guilt for needing help, shame for taking up space, and fear that maybe, just maybe, you've outlived your purpose. I see you there, holding on to that walker not just for balance, but because it's the only thing keeping you upright under the crushing weight of feeling forgotten. Every pill you swallow reminds you that your body is betraying you. Every bill that arrives makes you wonder if you should skip another meal. Every phone call that doesn't come breaks your heart a little more. You replay conversations from 40 years ago, wondering what you could have done differently. You lie awake calculating whether you should buy groceries or fill your prescriptions. You sit in that empty house where laughter used to live, surrounded by photos of people who've moved on with their lives, while you're stuck in yesterday's memories. The prophet David knew this weight. Listen to his cry in Psalm 55-22. Cast your cares on the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. But you've been casting those cares for 70 years, haven't you? And still, your hands shake as you sign another check you can't afford. Still, your heart breaks every time the phone doesn't ring. It's like walking uphill for decades, and now your legs can barely lift, but you keep walking because you think no one else will take the load. You've become Atlas, holding up a world that doesn't even notice you're there. Your back is breaking, your spirit is crushed, but you keep carrying because somewhere along the way, you believed that's what faith means, endless endurance without relief. But what if I told you that God never intended for you to carry this weight alone? What if every sleepless night, every financial struggle, every moment of feeling invisible was never his plan for your golden years? What if the very weight that's crushing you right now is about to become the foundation for the greatest miracle of your lifetime? You think you're too old for miracles. You think your season of blessing has passed. You look at your wrinkled hands and think they're too weak to receive what God wants to give. But Moses was 80 when he parted the Red Sea. Sarah was 90 when she held her miracle baby. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over the Messiah himself. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every gray hair represents wisdom earned through fire. Every line on your face tells a story of survival that younger generations will never understand. Every slow step you take carries the weight of decades of faithfulness that God has been recording in heaven's ledger. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is looking down at your struggle with the same love that a father watches his child learning to walk. You think you're falling, but he sees you standing. You think you're failing, but he sees you enduring. You think you're forgotten, but he sees you as his most treasured warrior who's been through hell and still whispers his name. The weight you've been carrying, the financial pressure, the family heartbreak, the health battles, the loneliness that cuts like a knife, none of it is punishment. It's all been preparation. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collecting in heaven's bottle. Every prayer you've whispered in desperation has been recorded in eternity's archives. God has seen every moment when you've wanted to give up but didn't. He's watched every time you've chosen faith over fear, hope over despair, love over bitterness. He's been taking notes on your faithfulness when no one else was watching. And tonight, he's ready to graduate you from your season of carrying to your season of receiving. The reason your burden feels unbearable right now isn't because you're weak, it's because you were never meant to carry it this long. The reason your strength is failing isn't because you're old, it's because God is preparing to show you what his strength looks like when it replaces yours. The reason you're hearing this message tonight, the reason your spirit is stirring as these words hit your ears, is because heaven has issued a divine decree over your life. Enough striving, enough carrying, enough enduring in your own strength. But here's the question that will determine everything that happens next in your life. Are you ready to finally let go of the weight you were never meant to carry and discover what God means when he says, "Now let me take over"? Chosen one, I need to tell you something that's going to shake every foundation you've built your life on. For decades, you've been living under a lie so devastating, so complete, that it's stolen your peace, robbed your sleep, and convinced you that God's blessings are for everyone except you. The lie? That everything depends on you. You've carried the weight of your family's financial struggles, like Atlas holding up the world. You've shouldered responsibility for your grown children's mistakes, your spouse's health, your community's problems. You've whispered prayers at 4 a.m., not asking for miracles, but begging for strength to carry one more day, one more burden, one more impossible situation. But what if I told you that every sleepless night you've endured was God watching you try to do his job? What if every time you've said, I can handle this, heaven has been waiting for you to say, I can't? Tonight, that waiting ends. Because the same God who looked at his faithful servant Joseph, rotting in an Egyptian prison and said, enough of this injustice, is looking at your struggle and declaring, enough. Think about Joseph's story in Genesis 41, 17 years old when his brothers threw him in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years. By any human measurement, Joseph should have given up, should have cursed God, should have accepted that this was his lot in life. But Joseph never carried what wasn't his to carry. He interpreted dreams, yes. He served faithfully, absolutely. But he never once tried to engineer his own promotion. He never schemed his way to power. He simply remained faithful while God orchestrated the impossible. And then one morning, everything changed. Not through Joseph's efforts, but through divine intervention. Pharaoh had a dream. Joseph was remembered. And in one day, one single day, he went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to the most powerful man in Egypt. But here's what most people miss about Joseph's story. The promotion didn't come when Joseph figured out how to escape prison. It came when God decided the preparation was complete. Your preparation is complete, chosen one. Let me tell you about Frank Martinez, a retired firefighter from the Bronx. Fought fires for 32 years, saved dozens of lives, carried his brothers out of burning buildings when their air ran out. Then at 67, cancer tried to take him down. Chemo stole his strength. Radiation stole his energy. His pension barely covered the medical bills. Frank spent 2 years asking God, why me? I served you. I served my community. Where's my reward? He carried the weight of his medical expenses, his wife's fear, his children's worry, tried to be strong for everyone while his body was failing. Until one Tuesday morning, when Frank stopped trying to be Superman and simply said, God, I can't do this anymore. You take over. That very week, a call came from the Fire Academy. They needed someone with Frank's experience to mentor young firefighters. Not the physical demands he could no longer handle, but the wisdom he'd accumulated through 3 decades of service. Today, Frank impacts more lives teaching than he ever did fighting fires. His cancer, in remission. His purpose, clearer than ever. God didn't heal Frank, so Frank could go back to his old life. God healed Frank, so he could step into his real calling. Enough fear, chosen one. Enough worry. Enough thinking it's all on you. The theology of surrender isn't about giving up, it's about giving over. It's about understanding that the God who owns cattle on 1,000 hills doesn't need your stress to fund his plan. The Creator who spoke galaxies into existence doesn't require your sleepless nights to hold your family together. Enough carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. Enough trying to be the savior when you already have one. Enough believing that your frantic efforts are what keep your world spinning. Listen to me. Letting go isn't failure. It's alignment. It's positioning yourself to receive what God has been trying to give you while your hands were too full of worry to receive it. Jesus said it plainly in Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not work harder, not try more. Come, rest. Let me carry what's breaking your back. But here's what's going to revolutionize your understanding of God's intervention. There's a prophetic pattern to how the Almighty takes over. A divine sequence that appears throughout Scripture whenever God decides to move someone from survival to significance. Joseph experienced it. Moses lived it. David walked through it. And you're about to discover that you're already in the middle of this same supernatural pattern. The pattern has 5 stages, and if you've been feeling like everything is falling apart lately, if circumstances seem to be conspiring against you, if doors are slamming shut faster than you can knock on them, that's not abandonment. That's stage 3 of God's takeover protocol. But stage 4, Stage 4 is where heaven stops whispering and starts shouting, where divine intervention becomes undeniable, where your breakthrough doesn't just change your circumstances, it rewrites your family's entire story. The question burning in your chest right now is this: if God is truly taking over, how do you know you're ready for what comes next? How do you prepare for a level of blessing you've never experienced? How do you steward abundance when you've mastered survival? Because, chosen one, what God is about to release in your life isn't just provision, it's overflow. Not just healing, it's restoration. Not just breakthrough, it's transformation so complete that even your enemies will have to acknowledge that the hand of the Lord is upon you. Are you ready to discover the divine pattern that's been orchestrating your entire life? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been gripping the steering wheel of your life so tightly that your knuckles have turned white. For decades, you've believed that letting go meant giving up. But what if I told you that surrender is not dropping the oars, it's handing the rudder to the captain who actually knows the map? Right now, there's a 73-year-old woman in Brooklyn clutching her foreclosure notice. She's tried everything, sold her wedding ring, worked part-time at 70, swallowed her pride and asked her children for help. Nothing worked. And she's terrified because she thinks surrender means becoming homeless. But that woman doesn't understand what you're about to discover. Surrender isn't weakness, it's warfare. It's the most aggressive act of faith you can perform in a world that's convinced you to carry what God never asked you to lift. Proverbs 3-5-6 cuts through every lie you've believed. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Did you catch that? He will make your path straight. Not might, not maybe, will. But only when you stop trying to pave the road yourself. You've been trying to understand your way out of problems that require divine intervention. You've been analyzing Social Security statements when you should be activating supernatural provision. You've been calculating Medicare gaps when you should be claiming miraculous healing. Here's the brutal truth that's going to shake you. Your understanding has limits, your strength expires, your resources run dry. But His understanding is infinite. His strength never fails, His resources never decrease. That 73-year-old woman I mentioned, her name is Margaret. Last Tuesday, she finally collapsed on her kitchen floor, not from exhaustion, but from surrender. She whispered 5 words that changed everything. Lord, I can't. You can. Within 7 days, her nephew she hadn't spoken to in 15 years called. He'd just sold his business and felt led to pay off her mortgage completely. 7 days. Not 7 months. Not 7 years. 7 days after she stopped fighting God for control. But here's what Margaret discovered in that moment of surrender, and what you're discovering right now. Surrender isn't giving up your power. It's plugging into unlimited power. It's trading your 12-volt human battery for the electrical grid of heaven. You think you're surrendering control. You never had control. You think you're giving up your plans. Your plans were killing you slowly. You think you're admitting defeat. You're actually declaring victory over the exhaustion that's been draining your life force for years. Look at your hands right now. Look at them. Those hands have worked for 7 decades. They've signed mortgage papers, wiped away tears, held grandchildren, folded in prayer. They're beautiful hands, faithful hands, but they're tired hands. God is saying to those tired hands tonight, rest, let me work. You've done enough. But surrender terrifies you because the world taught you that letting go means losing everything. The world lied. Surrender is how you gain access to everything. It's how you move from managing your limited resources to administering God's unlimited supply. Jesus demonstrated this perfectly. When He hung on that cross, it looked like total defeat. The disciples thought it was over. The religious leaders celebrated. Satan thought he'd won. But that moment of ultimate surrender became the moment of ultimate victory. Death couldn't hold Him. The grave couldn't contain Him. Hell couldn't claim Him. Your surrender won't look like death, chosen one. It will look like resurrection. It will look like bills being paid by sources you never expected. It will look like relationships being restored through conversations you never planned. It will look like health returning through methods medical science can't explain. But surrender requires something from you that your pride hates. Admitting you need help. After 70 years of independence, after decades of being the strong one everyone else leaned on, after a lifetime of solving your own problems, God is asking you to do something that feels foreign. Ask Him to take over. Right now, whisper these words where you are. Lord, I release it. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just say it. Lord, I release the mortgage payment. I release the medical bills. I release the loneliness. I release the fear about tomorrow. I release it all to you. If you just said it, put released in the comments. Let's flood this sacred space with surrender. Let heaven see that thousands of chosen ones are finally ready to stop carrying what they were never meant to lift. Because here's what happens the moment you truly surrender. God stops waiting for your permission and starts moving with His power. The same power that spoke galaxies into existence begins speaking solutions into your situation. The same voice that commanded light to split darkness begins commanding breakthrough to split your barriers. But the enemy doesn't want you to surrender because he knows something you're just discovering. A surrendered saint is the most dangerous weapon in God's arsenal. When you stop trying to fight your battles with human strategy and start letting God fight them with divine intervention, hell itself trembles. This is why your struggle has been so intense lately. This is why every solution you've tried has failed. This is why every door you've knocked on has remained closed. God has been systematically removing every human option, so you'd finally choose the divine option. Surrender is not the end of your story, chosen one. It's the beginning of God's story through you, and His stories always end in victory. But there's a second step to this divine takeover that will shock you even more than surrender. Chosen one, you felt that stirring in your spirit when I said God is taking over. But let me address the fear that just crept into your mind. What if God's takeover means chaos? What if I lose control completely? Listen to me carefully. God's takeover isn't divine chaos, it's divine order. And there's a massive difference that will change everything about how you see your future. Picture this. You're driving through a blizzard on the Long Island Expressway. Snow is pounding your windshield at 40 miles per hour. Your hands are white-knuckled on the steering wheel. You can barely see 5 feet ahead. Every muscle in your body is tense. You're fighting just to stay on the road. That's been your life, hasn't it? Straining, struggling, squinting through the storm, wondering if you're even heading in the right direction. But then something miraculous happens. The clouds break. The snow stops. Suddenly, the entire highway stretches before you clear, straight, bathed in golden sunlight. Your shoulders relax. Your grip loosens. The road that seemed impossible to navigate is now obvious. That's alignment, beloved. That's what happens when God takes over. You've been driving in a whiteout for decades, fighting to see the next step, wrestling with decisions that kept you awake until 4 a.m., wondering if you were making the right choices about your health, your finances, your family. But God is saying, child, put down the map. I know this road. I built this road. Here's what they don't tell you about divine alignment. It's not about God forcing you into submission. It's about God revealing the path He's been preparing all along. Look at Moses. 40 years in the wilderness of Midian, tending sheep. 40 years, can you imagine? This man had been raised in Pharaoh's palace, educated in all the wisdom of Egypt. And then, nothing. Shepherding sheep in the desert. His friends back in Egypt probably whispered, "Whatever happened to Moses? He had such potential." His own family might have wondered if he'd wasted his life. But here's the shocking truth. Those 40 years weren't wasted time. They were alignment time. God was positioning Moses in the exact place where he'd encounter the burning bush. Every day of wandering was actually divine positioning. Every moment of feeling forgotten was God fine-tuning His chosen vessel. Moses wasn't drifting, beloved. he was being aligned. And at 80 years old, 80, when everyone thought his story was over, God said, "Now you're ready. Now you understand leadership through surrender. Now you know my voice above the noise. You think your waiting has been punishment. Your delays have been divine positioning. Your setbacks have been set up for the greatest comeback of your lifetime." But here's where this gets personal. How many times have you looked at your life and whispered, "God, I've made so many wrong turns. I've wasted so much time. I'm too old to start over." How many nights have you replayed your mistakes, your missed opportunities, your roads not taken? Stop, right there. You haven't been wandering, chosen one. You've been aligning. Every job that didn't work out was steering you away from the wrong destiny. Every relationship that ended was protecting you from the wrong person. Every financial struggle was teaching you to trust God's provision. Every health scare was showing you that your life is in His hands, not yours. The wilderness wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation. And here's what's about to shock you. The moment true alignment happens, acceleration follows. Not gradual progress, acceleration. Moses went from shepherd to liberator overnight. David went from cave dweller to king. Esther went from orphan to queen. When God's timing aligns with your positioning, decades of preparation explode into destiny. But there's something you need to understand about this alignment process. It requires surrender, real surrender. Not the kind where you give God your problems but keep the steering wheel. Not the kind where you pray for guidance but ignore the answer because it doesn't match your plan. I'm talking about the kind of surrender where you say, "God, I don't understand why you're closing this door, but I trust you. I don't see why. You're leading me here, but I'll follow. I can't figure out your timing, but I believe your ways are higher than mine." That's when the clouds break, beloved. That's when the road becomes clear. Right now, some of you are thinking, "But I've tried surrendering before. I've prayed for God's will. Nothing changed." Listen to me carefully. The difference between trying to surrender and actual surrender is like the difference between dipping your toe in the Hudson River and diving in completely. God isn't looking for partial surrender. He's looking for total alignment. And when that happens, when you stop fighting the current and start flowing with His purpose, everything shifts. Your relationships align with people who support your destiny. Your resources align with opportunities you never saw coming. Your circumstances align with breakthroughs that leave you speechless. Your timing aligns with God's perfect plan. This isn't positive thinking, chosen one. This is divine positioning. And you're about to discover something that will revolutionize how you see the next chapter of your life. When alignment happens, acceleration follows. And that acceleration is about to transform your 70-second, 80-second, and beyond into the most productive, purposeful, powerful years you've ever lived. But the question burning in your spirit right now is this: how do you know when true alignment is happening? How do you recognize the difference between your plans and God's purpose? Listen to me, chosen one. Some of you have been circling the same mountain for 20 years, 30 years, maybe longer. You've been in a divine holding pattern, watching others take off while you sit on the tarmac of your dreams, engines running but never cleared for departure. But I hear something in the spirit realm tonight. The tower is speaking, the runway is clear. Your acceleration starts now. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That phone call you've been waiting for since 1987, that breakthrough that seemed to die with your spouse, that restoration you stopped believing was possible when your children chose silence over reconciliation, that financial miracle you quit asking for because hope became too painful to carry. But God operates outside your timeline. He doesn't punch a time clock. He doesn't check your birth certificate before He moves. And right now, at this very moment, He's saying what He said to Abraham at 75. Pack your bags, we're moving. Doors will open. Not tomorrow, not next month. Now, calls will come. From places you never applied, from people you haven't heard from in decades. Healing will spring forth in your body, in your bank account, in relationships you thought were buried forever. Money will flow from sources that make no earthly sense. This isn't positive thinking, beloved. This is prophetic declaration. Ephesians 3:20 thunders across eternity. Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Did you catch that? Exceedingly, abundantly, above all. That's not addition, that's multiplication. That's God taking your widow's mite and turning it into Wall Street wealth. That's him taking your broken heart and making it a healing center for a generation. Let me tell you about Margaret Chen from Flushing, Queens, 73 years old, husband dead 5 years, children scattered across 3 time zones. She'd been a nurse for 47 years before arthritis forced her into retirement. Social Security barely covered her medication. She was invisible, forgotten, done. Until last September. A tech company in Manhattan was desperate. Their workforce was burning out. Stress was killing productivity. They needed someone who understood human suffering, someone who'd seen death and chosen life, someone whose hands had held hope when hope was all that remained. They found Margaret on LinkedIn, a profile her granddaughter had set up as a joke. At 73, Margaret became the director of wellness for a Fortune 500 company. Her salary, $180,000 a year, plus benefits, plus stock options. The interviewer asked her one question: what qualifies you for this position? Margaret looked at her weathered hands and said, I've been practicing for this job for 73 years. Every patient I've lost taught me about grief. Every family I've comforted taught me about healing. Every night shift I've worked taught me about endurance. You want someone who can teach resilience? Hire the woman who's been resurrected more times than she can count. They hired her on the spot. Because God doesn't waste your pain. He warehouses it. He accumulates it. He compounds it like interest in a divine savings account, and then he releases it all at once when the market is right. Your market is right. Tonight. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. God's acceleration isn't just about blessing you, it's about positioning you. Every trial you've endured, every tear you've shed, every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, it was all preparation for this moment when he says, now, I need you to run. Not walk, run. Isaiah 40:31 promises, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. You've done your waiting. You've proven your faithfulness. Now comes the mounting up. Now comes the running. Now comes the soaring at altitudes you never dreamed possible. But acceleration requires agreement. You can't ride the brakes and expect to reach highway speed. You can't keep one foot in yesterday and expect to sprint into tomorrow. The enemy has been whispering lies to you for decades. You're too old. You've missed your window. Your time has passed. God's moved on to younger models. That's not just wrong. That's demonic. That's the voice of hell, trying to ground the very aircraft God is preparing to launch into the stratosphere of his purposes. Moses didn't deliver Israel until he was 80. Anna didn't proclaim the Messiah until she was 84. Caleb didn't conquer his mountain until he was 85. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Your wrinkles are your credentials. Your scars are your resume. And God is about to prove that the best wine is saved for last. But this acceleration demands everything from you. No more playing small. No more hiding behind, I'm just a senior citizen. No more accepting the world's definition of your limitations. You are not a senior citizen, you are a senior warrior, a vintage vessel, a seasoned saint with fire in your bones and purpose in your DNA. If you're ready for God's acceleration, I need you to do something right now. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't wait for a better moment. Stand where you are. I don't care if you're in your living room, your kitchen, or your bedroom. Stand up. Lift your hands. I don't care who's watching. I don't care how foolish you think it looks. Lift them toward heaven and declare it aloud, not in your head, not in a whisper, but aloud. I am ready. I receive God's acceleration. My breakthrough starts now. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your future depends on it. Because it does. The Spirit of God is hovering over this moment, waiting for your declaration of readiness, your agreement with His timing, your yes to His acceleration. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly how this divine acceleration will transform every area of your life, starting with the one thing you've struggled with the longest. I know what you're thinking right now. I can feel it through the screen. That voice, the one that's been your constant companion for decades, is whispering its familiar poison. But I'm 75 years old. My best days are buried with my husband. My health is failing. My children have their own lives. God uses young people now, people with energy, people with futures. Stop right there. That voice isn't wisdom, beloved. That's the enemy's greatest weapon against God's chosen ones in their golden years. Because he knows something terrifying when a saint who's walked with God for 7 decades finally steps into their full authority, hell itself trembles. You think you're too old? Moses was 80 when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in assisted living, but God said, now you're ready. Now you have what it takes. For the next 40 years, Moses split seas, spoke with the Almighty face to face, and delivered an entire nation. His greatest chapters weren't written in his youth. They were penned when his hair was white and his hands were weathered. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been measuring your worth by the world's calendar instead of God's timeline. The world sees wrinkles and thinks decline. God sees those same lines and reads them like a map of miracles, each one marking a place where you should have broken but didn't, where you should have quit but chose faith instead. You whisper, I've made too many mistakes. Dear one, that's not disqualification, that's divine preparation. Every wrong turn taught you to recognize the right path. Every failure showed you the difference between human strength and divine power. Every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottles, stored up as liquid prayers about to be poured out as answered blessings. Look at Anna the prophetess in Luke chapter 2, 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage. The world saw a forgotten old woman spending her final years in the temple. But when baby Jesus was brought through those doors, it wasn't the young mothers or the influential priests who recognized the Messiah. It was Anna, 84-year-old Anna, who proclaimed to all Jerusalem that redemption had come. Why her? Because God needed someone whose spiritual eyes had been sharpened by decades of waiting, whose faith had been refined by years of seeming silence, whose heart had been expanded by a lifetime of believing for what she couldn't yet see. That's you, chosen one. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your credential. Your scars aren't shame, they're your qualifications. The world may have written you off, but heaven has been writing you up. Think about a lighthouse standing on the rocky coast of Maine. Does it retire because storms come less often? Does it dim its light because newer navigational systems exist? Absolutely not. It shines because it knows there will be another storm. And when that storm comes, when the winds howl and the waves crash, ships won't be looking for the newest technology. They'll be searching for the light that's been faithful through 1,000 tempests. You are that lighthouse, beloved. Your light doesn't dim with age, it burns brighter, because it's been tested by storms that would have extinguished weaker flames. The young ones around you have energy, yes, but you have something infinitely more valuable: proven faithfulness, tested character, the kind of unshakable foundation that only comes from walking with God through seasons of both feast and famine. But the enemy knows this. That's why he works overtime to convince you that your season is over. He whispers lies about your energy, your relevance, your ability to make a difference. Because if he can keep you on the spiritual sidelines, believing you're too old to be used by God, then he's neutralized one of heaven's most dangerous weapons, a saint with nothing left to lose and everything eternal to gain. Here's the truth that will revolutionize your remaining years. God doesn't measure your usefulness by your earthly age. He measures it by your spiritual maturity. And right now, in this very moment, you are the most spiritually mature you've ever been, the most refined, the most prepared for supernatural assignment. Your struggle with doubt isn't evidence of weak faith. It's proof that something significant is stirring. The enemy only attacks what threatens him. Your very questioning means God is positioning you for something that makes hell nervous. So I'm asking you directly, will you let the voice of limitation win, or will you finally hear what heaven has been declaring over your life for decades? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why God has kept you here, why He's sustained you through every trial, and why your greatest assignment isn't behind you, it's directly ahead. Chosen one. We've reached the moment where heaven and earth collide. For the past hour, you've felt it building, that earthquake in your spirit, that rumbling in the deep places of your soul. Your hands are probably trembling right now. Your chest feels tight. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's the presence of the Almighty pressing against 70, 80, 90 years of walls you've built around your weary heart. Tonight, those walls come down. Do you remember Lazarus, 4 days dead, wrapped in burial clothes, sealed in a tomb? Everyone had given up. The mourners had gone home. The funeral was over. But Jesus stood at that grave and spoke 3 words that shattered death itself. Lazarus, come forth. Chosen one, you've been in your tomb too long. You've been wrapped in the burial clothes of I'm too old, I'm forgotten, my time has passed. But right now, at this very moment, I hear the voice of the Almighty calling your name. Come forth. Your resurrection hour has arrived. Listen to me carefully. This isn't motivation. This isn't positive thinking. This is prophetic declaration over your bloodline. Isaiah 40:31 declares, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Mount up, not crawl up, not struggle up. Mount up like eagles catching the wind. Your strength isn't being restored, beloved, it's being renewed. Brand new strength, eagle strength, supernatural strength that laughs at your age and mocks your limitations. But there's more. Philippians 4:19 promises, "And my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus." Not some of your needs, not your basic needs, all your needs, according to His riches. The God who owns every star, every mountain, every grain of sand, is personally guaranteeing your provision. Do you feel that shift? Something is breaking off you right now. Generational poverty is cracking. Decades of struggle are snapping like old chains. Financial lack is releasing its grip on your family line. The curse stops here, tonight, with you. Now I need you to do something that will change everything. I need you to speak these words out loud. Don't just think them, don't whisper them. Say them with the authority of someone who carries the DNA of the King of Kings. Lord, I've done enough. Now, take over. Say it again, louder this time. Lord, I've done enough. Now, take over. One more time, with everything in you. Lord, I've done enough. Now, take over. Do you feel that? That release? That's 70 years of striving leaving your body. That's 8 decades of worry evaporating like morning mist. That's a lifetime of not enough being replaced with more than enough. Heaven just heard your declaration. Angels are moving. Doors are opening. Resources are being released. People you've never met are being positioned to bless you. Opportunities that seemed impossible are suddenly inevitable. But here's what's going to happen when you wake up tomorrow morning, and I need you to prepare for this. You're going to feel different. Not just emotionally, physically different, spiritually different. That weight you've carried for decades will be gone. Your step will be lighter. Your voice will be stronger. Your eyes will be brighter. People are going to notice and ask, "What happened to you?" And you're going to smile and say, "God took over." Your doctor will be confused by your test results. Your bank account will start reflecting supernatural provision. Your children will call more often. Your prayers will carry new authority. Your very presence will shift atmospheres. This is what happens when the creator of the universe personally takes over your life. But I need to ask you something crucial. Are you ready for this level of blessing? Are you prepared for God to vindicate you publicly? Are you ready for your enemies to see your comeback? Are you ready to become the answer to your grandchildren's prayers? Because there's no going back after tonight. Once you surrender to his takeover, mediocrity becomes impossible. Once you let him drive, you can never settle for the back seat again. Before we close this sacred moment, I need you to do one final thing. In the comments below, write one thing you're giving to God tonight. Maybe it's your financial worry. Maybe it's your loneliness. Maybe it's your fear about the future. Whatever it is, type it out. Your words won't just disappear into cyberspace. They'll become a testimony for someone scrolling through at 3 a.m., feeling forgotten and alone. They'll read your surrender and realize they're not the only one. Your vulnerability tonight becomes someone else's lifeline tomorrow. You are not just receiving a blessing, chosen one, you are becoming one. The takeover is complete. Your new life begins now. And then it happens. The moment you whisper, "Yes, Lord, take over," something shifts in the atmosphere around you. Not dramatically, not with thunder and lightning, but with something far more powerful, a holy silence that settles over your spirit like fresh snow on a cemetery at midnight. You feel it, don't you? That strange stillness after surrender. It's the same silence that follows a confession whispered in an empty cathedral. The same quietude that blankets a hospital room after the last prayer is said. But this silence is different. It's pregnant with possibility, heavy with the weight of divine intervention about to unfold. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. Let me tell you what's really happening in this sacred pause, chosen one. While you sit there feeling like nothing has changed, while your bank account still shows the same numbers, while your prescription bottles still rattle with the same warnings, while your phone still doesn't ring with calls from children who've forgotten your birthday, something monumental is shifting in the unseen realm. Remember Elijah on Mount Carmel. Fire fell from heaven. The prophets of Baal were defeated. Victory was absolute. But then came the silence. 1 Kings 19:12 tells us that after the earthquake, after the fire, after all the spectacular displays of power, God was not in any of those things. He was in a gentle whisper, not a shout, not a proclamation, a whisper that changed everything. You see, beloved, God doesn't need to announce his takeovers with fanfare. He doesn't need CNN breaking news alerts or Facebook notifications. When the creator of the universe decides to intervene in human affairs, he often does it in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, in the pause between your desperate prayer and your next breath. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. But here's what's breaking my heart right now. I know some of you are sitting in that silence thinking, nothing's happening. I prayed, I surrendered. I said, take over, Lord, and I still can't pay my electric bill. My arthritis still hurts. My daughter still won't call. Maybe I'm fooling myself. Maybe God really has forgotten about old folks like me. Stop right there. Stop believing that lie from the pit of hell. Do you think when Moses stood at the Red Sea, holding his staff over those impossible waters, that the first thing that happened was a spectacular parting number? The Bible says in Exodus 14:21, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back. All that night, hours of silence, hours of waiting, hours of the Israelites looking at Moses like he'd lost his mind, while Egyptian chariots thundered closer. But God was working in the silence. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. Right now, while you're questioning whether anything has really changed, angels are receiving their assignments. While you're wondering if your prayer was heard, divine strategies are being deployed. While you're feeling forgotten, Heaven's accounting department is calculating compound interest on 70 years of your faithfulness. You want to know what's happening in this holy pause? Let me paint you a picture that will shatter every doubt in your spirit. There's a boardroom in glory where your case file just landed on the table. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are reviewing every sleepless night you've endured. Every tear you've cried is being entered as evidence. Every time you chose faith over fear, hope over despair, praise over complaint, it's all being documented as proof that you're ready for what's coming next. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. And while this divine deliberation is happening, something else is occurring in your physical world. Doors you don't even know exist are being unlocked. Bank accounts you've never heard of are being prepared for transfer. People whose names you don't recognize are being moved into position to bless you. Opportunities that seem impossible are being orchestrated by the same God who hung the stars in space without a single nail. But you can't see it yet, because it's happening in the silence. Do you remember Sarah? 90 years old, barren womb, husband 100 years old, and God promised her a son. The Bible doesn't tell us what happened in the months between the promise and the pregnancy. It doesn't describe the silence she endured while her body remained unchanged. But I guarantee you, dear one, that in that silence, cellular reconstruction was happening. Hormonal systems were being rewired. The impossible was being made inevitable, one quiet day at a time. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand about this sacred pause. Your quiet season is actually your most dangerous season to his kingdom. When you're frantically trying to solve everything yourself, when you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, when you're operating in panic mode, the devil isn't worried. He knows exhausted people make poor decisions. He knows desperate people compromise their values. He knows overwhelmed people give up on God's promises. But when you enter the silence of surrender, when you stop thrashing and start trusting, when you quit trying to be your own savior and let the real savior take the wheel, that's when hell starts trembling. Because silent saints are dangerous saints. Quiet warriors are the most lethal warriors. And believers who know how to rest in God's promises while He works are the ones who watch water turn to wine. The silence is not absence. The silence is preparation. But here's the question that's going to determine everything about what happens next in your life. Will you trust the silence, or will you break it with doubt? Will you let God work in the pause, or will you panic in the pause? Will you remember that the same God who created the universe in 6 days and rested on the 7th is now working 6 dimensions ahead of your current reality? Because what's about to break this silence isn't just another blessing. It's not just another breakthrough. What's about to shatter this holy quietude is a divine takeover so complete, so overwhelming, that you'll spend the rest of your days trying to find words to describe what God did when you finally got out of His way. But here's what's going to shake you to your core, chosen one. God doesn't just speak once and disappear into silence. When the Almighty decides to take over your life, He leaves unmistakable fingerprints. Divine breadcrumbs that only those with eyes to see can recognize. You've been asking God for confirmation, haven't you? Lying awake wondering if that whisper was real or just your desperate heart playing tricks on you. Well, beloved, I'm about to give you 3 prophetic markers that prove beyond any shadow of doubt that God has already begun His takeover in your life. And if you've experienced even one of these signs in the past 7 days, you need to understand something. You're not just witnessing coincidence, you're living inside a divine intervention. The first sign, unusual peace. Listen to me carefully. When God takes over, the first thing He does is silence the storm in your spirit. Not the circumstances around you, those might still be raging, but something shifts inside you, something that defies every logical reason you have to be anxious. It's like walking through the same hurricane that's been battering you for months, but suddenly the wind no longer bites your skin. The bills are still on the table. The doctor's report hasn't changed. Your social security check is still the same measly amount, but your chest isn't tight anymore. That knot in your stomach, the one that's been your constant companion for years, it's just gone. Martha, 78 years old from Brooklyn, wrote to me last month. She said, "Pastor, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer on a Tuesday. By Friday, I should have been terrified. Instead, I woke up humming, 'Great is thy faithfulness,' and making breakfast like it was the best day of my life. I can't explain it. The peace doesn't make medical sense. That's not denial, chosen one. That's divine anesthesia. When God says, 'I've got this,' your nervous system gets the memo before your mind does. Isaiah 26:3 promises, 'You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you.' Perfect peace doesn't mean perfect circumstances. It means supernatural calm in the middle of impossible situations. Have you felt it? That strange, unexplainable quiet in your spirit when everything around you screams chaos. That's not your imagination running wild. That's God installing his operating system in your heart, replacing your anxiety software with his peace program. The second sign, strategic encounters. But God doesn't stop with internal peace. When he takes over, he begins orchestrating your external world like a master conductor. Suddenly, people start appearing in your life, not random people, but precisely the right people at precisely the right moment. You know what I'm talking about. That conversation with the stranger in the grocery store checkout line who just happened to mention exactly what you needed to hear. The neighbor you barely know who knocks on your door with a solution to a problem you never told anyone about. The phone call from a cousin you haven't heard from in 15 years, calling at the exact moment you needed encouragement. Frank, 82, from Staten Island, told me his story. He'd been trying to sell his late wife's jewelry for months to pay for his medication. Every pawn shop lowballed him. Then, standing in line at the pharmacy, the woman behind him overhears his conversation with the pharmacist about payment plans. Turns out she's a jewelry appraiser who specializes in vintage pieces. She bought everything at fair market value right there in the CVS parking lot. Coincidence? I don't think so. Proverbs 16:9 declares, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." When God takes over, he doesn't just direct your steps, he directs everyone else's steps to intersect with yours at divine appointments you never saw coming. These aren't chance meetings, beloved. These are chess moves by the Grand Master, who sees 7 moves ahead. Every accidental encounter is God positioning his pieces for your breakthrough. The third sign, accelerated alignments. And here's where it gets supernatural. Chosen one. When God says, "I'm taking over," things that have been stuck for years suddenly start moving at warp speed. That insurance claim that's been sitting in bureaucratic limbo for 18 months, approved overnight. That family relationship that's been broken for a decade, your daughter calls out of the blue wanting to reconcile. That housing situation that seemed impossible, the perfect apartment opens up exactly when you need it. When God accelerates your timeline, it's like watching dominoes fall in slow motion, except they're falling upward instead of down. Every piece that was out of place suddenly snaps into perfect position. Ruth, 74, from Queens, had been fighting Social Security for 2 years over a benefits error. 2 years of phone calls, paperwork, and bureaucratic runaround. Then last Tuesday, the same day she started praying for God to take over her finances, she gets a call. Not only did they approve her back benefits, but they expedited a check for $18,000 in retroactive payments. When I asked her what changed, she said, "Pastor, nothing changed except my prayer. I stopped trying to fix it myself and asked God to handle it." Habakkuk 2-3 promises, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. At the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not delay." God's timing isn't late, it's strategic. And when he decides to move, he makes up for lost time in ways that leave you breathless. Have you noticed things shifting faster than they should? Doors opening that were welded shut. People calling you back who ignored you for months. That's not luck improving. Chosen one. That's God hitting the accelerator on his plan for your life. Now here's what's going to blow your mind. These 3 signs aren't just random spiritual experiences. They're sequential. First comes the peace, God calming your spirit so you can recognize his movement. Then come the encounters, him positioning the right people in your path. Finally comes the acceleration, everything suddenly moving toward the breakthrough you've been praying for. And if you've experienced even one of these signs in the past week, you need to understand something that will change everything. You're not waiting for God to move anymore. He's already moving. The question isn't when God will take over. The question is, what if you're already in one of these signs and you just haven't recognized it yet? If you've seen even one of these divine markers this week, that unexplainable peace, those strategic encounters, those accelerated alignments, type confirmation below. Let this community of chosen ones know they're not alone in experiencing God's supernatural takeover. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what God is preparing you for when all 3 signs converge in your life simultaneously. Listen to me, chosen one. Close your eyes for just a moment. I want you to see something that God showed me in a vision 3 nights ago at 3:17 a.m. Your spirit needs to witness this. You're standing in a wilderness, not the romantic desert you see in movies, but the real thing. Cracked earth stretches for miles, baked hard as concrete under a merciless sun. The ground beneath your feet is split open like broken promises. Your mouth tastes of dust and disappointment. This is the place where dreams come to die, where hope gets buried under 70 years of maybe next time. Does this feel familiar? Because this wilderness has been your home, hasn't it? You've wandered here for decades, searching for an oasis that never comes. Every step forward seems to lead to another dead end. Every prayer seems to echo back empty. The miracles you see others receive feel like distant lightning, close enough to see, too far to touch. You look down at your hands in this vision. They're weathered, marked by time. Arthritis has stolen their strength. Age spots tell stories of countless battles fought alone. These are the hands that raised children who now rarely call. The hands that worked jobs that barely paid enough. The hands that folded in prayer while creditors called at dinner time. God, you whisper into the desert wind, I've walked this wilderness my entire life. When does it end? When do I get to see the promised land before I die? The silence stretches. The sun beats down harder. Your knees buckle slightly under the weight of decades carrying burdens too heavy for human shoulders. You're ready to sit down right here in the dust and surrender to the wilderness forever. But then, wait. Do you see it? There, right where your tears hit the hardest ground, something impossible is happening. A crack appears. Not another fissure of despair, but something else entirely. Something green. Something alive. A tiny shoot, no bigger than your pinky finger, pushes through the concrete hard earth with supernatural determination. This is the moment everything changes. God's voice rumbles across the wilderness like distant thunder. This is you, my child. You thought you were finished. You believed the wilderness was your final destination. But I've planted you exactly where water is already on the way. Already on the way. Let that sink into your spirit. Already on the way. Isaiah 43:19 echoes across the desert. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Already on the way. The financial breakthrough that will let you sleep peacefully. Already on the way. The health restoration that will give you energy you thought was gone forever. Already on the way. The family reconciliation that will heal decades of silence. Already on the way. You kneel down in the vision and touch that impossible green shoot. It's warm, pulsing with life that defies every law of nature you know. And suddenly, you understand something that rocks your understanding of everything you've endured. The wilderness wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation. Every scorching day taught you to value water. Every dry season trained your roots to go deeper. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't was building spiritual muscle you'll need for what's coming. The wilderness wasn't trying to kill you. It was trying to position you exactly where the underground rivers would break through. Already on the way. Can you feel them? The streams are flowing beneath your feet right now. You can't see them yet, but your spirit knows. Something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The drought is ending. The hard ground is about to crack open with such force that rivers will gush forth where there was once only dust. Already on the way. The promotion that will silence every voice that called you too old. Already on the way. The doors opening that you never even knocked on. Already on the way. The vindication that will prove God never forgot your address. But here's what breaks my heart, chosen one. Too many believers die in the wilderness just miles from their breakthrough. They give up in December when their January miracle was already scheduled. They surrender at 11:59 p.m. when their midnight deliverance was already in motion. The green shoot in your vision suddenly explodes upward. In seconds, it becomes a tree. In minutes, a forest. The roots you can't see have tapped into rivers you never knew existed. What looked like sudden growth was actually the result of years of underground preparation. This is your Joseph moment. Remember him? 13 years of slavery and prison. 13 years of wondering if God's promises were just cruel jokes. But Genesis 41:14 tells us that Pharaoh's summons came so suddenly, Joseph didn't even have time to shave before being pulled from the dungeon to the palace. In one day, one single day, he went from forgotten prisoner to second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. Already on the way. Your palace moment, your Red Sea parting, your Jericho walls falling. The infrastructure of your miracle has been under construction in the spiritual realm while you thought nothing was happening. Moses wandered in the wilderness for 40 years before God spoke from a burning bush. But Exodus 3-7 reveals something stunning. The Lord said, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering." God had been watching, planning, preparing Moses' deliverance mission for decades. The call wasn't sudden, it was precisely timed, already on the way. Your burning bush encounter, your commissioning for something greater than you've ever imagined. Stand up right now if you can. I don't care if your knees creak. I don't care if people are watching. Say your own name out loud, followed by these words. God is taking over my story. Post it in the comments. Make it your public declaration to heaven and earth that your wilderness season is ending. Because the vision isn't over yet. That green shoot, that impossible tree, that sudden forest it's spreading. The underground rivers are surfacing everywhere you look. The wilderness is transforming into a garden so abundant that travelers will stop and ask, "What happened here? This used to be a wasteland." And you'll smile with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what happened. You'll point to that first green shoot and say, "God planted me where water was already on the way." But the most shocking part of this vision is still coming. Because what God is about to show you next will prove that your breakthrough isn't just personal, it's generational, eternal, and unstoppable. Are you ready to see what happens when the underground rivers finally break the surface? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something is happening in the unseen realm. The enemy knows what God just declared over your life. He felt the shift when heaven announced, "You've done enough," and he is absolutely terrified. You want to know why your arthritis flared up this week? Why your insurance company suddenly denied your claim, why your own children seemed colder on that last phone call, why the depression hit harder than it has in months, right when hope was starting to rise in your chest. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Hell is throwing everything it has at you because Satan recognizes the sound of divine takeover. He's seen this before. He watched it happen to Moses when Pharaoh's grip tightened right before the Red Sea split. He witnessed it with the Israelites when Jericho's walls seemed to grow higher just days before they crumbled to dust. The enemy's playbook hasn't changed in 4,000 years. When God is about to move, hell moves first. When breakthrough is imminent, pushback becomes brutal. When your miracle is 24 hours away, the attack feels like it might kill you. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to understand. His desperation is your confirmation. His panic is your proof. The very fact that you're under assault right now means you're standing at the edge of something so magnificent that hell had to mobilize every demon in the district to try to stop it. Think about Joshua at Jericho. For 6 days, those walls looked exactly the same. No cracks, no movement, nothing. The enemy was laughing, mocking their faith, whispering the same lies he's whispering to you right now. Nothing's happening. God's not moving. You're too old for miracles. You've waited too long. But on the 7th day, something shifted. Not in the walls, they looked identical. The shift was in heaven's timing. And when Joshua gave the command to shout, those massive stones didn't just fall, they were hurled down with such force that the earth shook for miles. Dear one, you are walking your 7th day. The walls in your life look the same, your bank account reads the same, your medical reports say the same thing. But in the spirit realm, the countdown has already begun. This is why the enemy is hitting you so hard right now. He knows his time is measured in hours, not years. He can hear the rumbling of heaven's army positioning for your breakthrough. He can feel the ground trembling beneath the walls that have held you captive. So he's pulling out every weapon in his arsenal to make you quit just before the shout. Don't you dare give him that victory. Psalm 23:5 declares something that should make every demon tremble. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Do you understand what that means? God isn't waiting for your enemies to leave. He's setting up your feast while they watch. He's arranging your abundance while they scheme. He's preparing your promotion while they plot your downfall. Your enemies, poverty, sickness, loneliness, depression, they're all going to witness your resurrection. They're going to sit there in stunned silence as God transforms your life before their very eyes. The same financial pressure that tried to crush you will watch you write checks without checking your balance. The same illness that tried to kill you will witness your body radiating divine health. But right now, in this moment, they're making their final push. They're screaming louder because they know their time is up. The volume of their attack is directly proportional to the magnitude of your approaching victory. This is spiritual warfare at its most intense. When the night is darkest, dawn is a breath away. When the storm is loudest, the harbor is closest. When hell's assault is most vicious, heaven's intervention is most certain. Don't mistake the shaking for breaking. What you're feeling isn't your foundation cracking. It's the ground clearing for deeper roots. God is excavating every weak thing in your life so he can build something that will stand for generations. The enemy knows that once you step into what God has prepared, you'll become dangerous to his kingdom. A 7-5-year-old with divine purpose is more threatening than a 2-5-year-old with natural energy. An 80-year-old walking in God's favor can accomplish more in 1 year than most people achieve in a lifetime. This is why he's hitting your mind so hard. The thoughts that come at 3 a.m. You're too old. You've missed your season. God's moved on. Those aren't your thoughts. That's enemy intelligence designed to make you retreat just before the victory parade. But I need you to understand something that will silence every demonic whisper. You have not come this far to only come this far. God has not sustained you through 7 decades of storms just to let you drown in the harbor. You have not survived cancer, buried spouses, weathered financial crashes, and endured family betrayals just to quit when heaven is saying, now watch me work. The resistance you're feeling is resistance to God's will, not confirmation of your failure. Every attack that comes against you now is hell's acknowledgement that you carry something they fear. They wouldn't waste their ammunition on an empty target. So when the panic attacks come, remember, they're birth pains for your breakthrough. When the doubt screams loudest, know that faith is about to roar. When everything in your natural circumstances says impossible, heaven is whispering, watch this. The enemy's last pushback always comes just before the walls fall. But here's the question that will determine whether you get your miracle or miss it. When hell throws its final punch, will you throw in the towel, or will you throw up your hands in worship and watch God throw down his power? Because chosen one, the table is already set. Your enemies are taking their seats, and God is about to serve them the shock of their eternal existence when they witness what happens when the Almighty says, "You've done enough, now let me take over." Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, your season of striving is over. God has looked at your decades of faithfulness, your sleepless nights of prayer, your unwavering trust through impossible circumstances, and he has declared, "You've done enough." This isn't retirement from purpose. This is graduation into divine partnership. You're not stepping down, you're stepping into God's supernatural takeover of your life. Second, your age is not your disqualification, it's your greatest asset. While the world sees wrinkles and limitations, heaven sees wisdom and proven faithfulness. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus. Your gray hair is not a sign of decline, it's a crown of glory, evidence that you've survived what was meant to destroy you and emerged with your faith intact. Third, every attack you've endured, every wall that seemed impossible to breach, every moment when hell threw its worst at you, it was all confirmation that you carry something the enemy fears. Your struggles weren't punishment, they were preparation. Your pain wasn't pointless, it was prophetic, shaping you into a vessel strong enough to contain the glory God is about to pour through you. But beloved, I need you to know something deeper than knowledge. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, as you listen to these words, the God who created the universe is still working behind the scenes in your life. He's opening doors you haven't seen yet, preparing opportunities that will leave you speechless, and orchestrating divine appointments that will change everything. Romans 8:28 isn't just a verse, it's your reality. All things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. And beyond God's presence, you have something beautiful right here, a community of fellow chosen ones who understand your journey. Look at these comments, see these hearts connecting across miles and generations. This isn't just a YouTube channel, this is a family of faith, bound together by shared struggles and unified hope. We've walked where you've walked. We've cried the tears you've cried. We've whispered the same desperate prayers in the dark. You belong here, we see you, we believe in you, and we will stand with you in prayer. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would he abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest victory? He wouldn't. He won't. He never will. Now, before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, not just their pain, but their perseverance, not just their struggles, but their strength, not just their age, but their anointing. God, I pray right now that you would breathe fresh wind into every weary spirit watching this. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are chosen. Where they feel weak, clothe them with your strength. Where they feel afraid, surround them with your perfect peace that passes all understanding. Father, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will encourage their hearts and strengthen their faith. Heal their bodies, restore their families, and multiply their seed. Lord, let them feel your presence right now, that warm assurance that you are with them, that you love them beyond measure, that their best days are not behind them, but ahead of them. Give them dreams and visions that direct their steps. Give them supernatural energy that defies their age. Give them joy that becomes their strength. And Father, use their testimony, every battle they've won, every mountain they've climbed, every miracle they've witnessed. Use their story to set others free. Let their life become a lighthouse for those lost in the storm, showing them that you are still the God who saves, who heals, who provides, and who never gives up on your children. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, with hope, and with unshakable confidence in your goodness. Let your will be done in their lives, and let your glory be revealed through their breakthrough. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how God spoke to your heart today. What shifted in your spirit? What are you believing Him for in this new season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Type "God's got this" if you're ready to let Him take over completely. And please, if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. There's a senior in your neighborhood, a parent struggling with purpose, a friend who feels invisible. They need to hear these words. When we lift each other up, heaven responds with acceleration. If this is your first time with us, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we're building something powerful here. A community where faith grows, hope is restored, and chosen ones remember who they really are. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being living proof that God's chosen ones don't fade with age. They shine brighter with every passing year. You are loved, you are chosen, you are not alone. And your story isn't over. It's just beginning the chapter where God says, "Move over. I'm taking the wheel." Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are, rest in the certainty of His love, and never forget, you've done enough. Now let Him take over. God bless you mightily, chosen one. Go in peace, go in power, and go knowing that your breakthrough is already in motion.